There's smoke.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Expedition Engineering. That is not ideal. That is not what is supposed to be coming out of the side of our boat, and that's just not good. That was a lot of smoke coming out of our exhaust, and I'll give you some details on that. So what was happening is I was doing a test on the engine after doing an upgrade on the alternator regulator, and I was revving up the RPMs on the throttle, and that's what happened. Smoke, and I'm going to give you a challenge. I'm going to tell you the symptoms, and I want you to put on your mechanic's hats and tell me what you think I should be looking into, and then I'll tell you what I'm going to look into. Symptoms include smoke, but only in attempted higher RPMs. Throttle and engine started just fine. Started revving up in neutral. RPMs went up to about 2,000. At 2,000, didn't matter where the lever was, it did not go past 2,000 RPMs. The only thing that happened is smoke. That's your first indication. Second big thing that I noticed is I could not hear the turbo spooling up. Third thing, the smoke color, if you can tell from the video, it was kind of a grayish, blackish color. You might say white. I wouldn't say white though. There's your symptoms so far. What do you think? Where should I be looking? What should I be looking at? From what I know about our engine, about diesels, and about this engine is turbocharged, and so the engine is a Yanmar 4JH4TE, which means it is turbocharged, not intercooled, and which is fine. It doesn't really need an intercooler, but the turbo should spool up at around 1,500 to 2,000 RPMs is normally where I hear it starting to spool up. Didn't hear that. So to me, the turbo isn't spooling. Does that mean the turbo is bad? Does that mean the turbo is gummed up? Or does it mean that the exhaust elbow is plugged? That's where I'm going to start, because I think the exhaust elbow is either plugged or going bad or is bad. At the very least, it needs to be inspected. And so today I'm going to be taking that thing off. We'll take a look at it, see if there's anything obvious, and we'll go from there. But if you still have your mechanic's hat on, other things that we could potentially think of what's going on with the engine. So turbo is either gummed up or bad. Exhaust elbow is gummed up or bad. Fuel filters, that could be another reason for it to be doing this. Could be gummed up or just need replacing. Or last but not least, if we're going, the worst case scenario, a blown head gasket. That could cause these same symptoms. I don't think it's that one, but that's a possibility. So we're going to start with the things that we can fix relatively easily, and that we should probably be fixing, replacing, cleaning anyway, and go from there. If you've been paying attention, a while back I upgraded the alternator to this shiny red one. And with the albeit minimalist external regulator, was able to charge up our lithium batteries while we motored. Always wanting to improve though, when I talked to Arco about their upgraded regulator just hitting the market, I was on board immediately. And they were kind enough to send me the newest version, the Zeus, to try out. So it's out with the old and in with the new. Hope I remember where all these wires go. Since I just took off one of the temperature sensors, I might as well reconnect the battery temperature sensor while I'm doing it, because this came with temperature sensors for battery and alternator. I believe they're the same. They look the same. Hopefully they're the same. Just check in. Got the alternator side of things all wired now, and even included an extra switch, which it says you can use for something. Doesn't really say what yet, but got that wired. And next I will jump into the engine side of things, which there's a lot more wires, and I'm quickly running out of connectors, so hopefully I have enough. It's gonna be close. I just wanted to say, I've never done an install that has an app that walks you through it before, but this is pretty cool. And So far, I am very impressed. The wiring is really high quality and it's looking good. I'm hopeful that this is going to be a very good product.
Zeus's job is vital, as it's what controls the electricity produced by the engine-driven alternator, adjusting the alternator load while taking into consideration engine RPMs, alternator temperature, battery temperature, voltage, and state of charge. And to top it all off, it has built-in Bluetooth app interface, NEMA 2000, and CAN bus.
Whew. Got it mounted. Got it mounted up there. I did talk to the guys at Arco about installing this in the engine bay, and they said that's totally fine. So that was my concern.
All of this is just included. Temperature sensors, but also the wiring harnesses for both the engine and the alternator. And with their app and color coordinated wires, this is something that I should be able to get right. Zeus has the capability of charging batteries 12 to 48 volts and lead acid to lithium iron phosphate using predefined or user-defined profiles, and has custom switching like the one I just installed to force float mode. I just installed a dedicated alternator shunt, so now Zeus is wired into both the alternator and the lithium battery shunt and can react to both of them in real time.
Last night I got the shunt installed here. This will be alternator shunt. So I got that. So now I'm just going through and getting all the wiring sorted out. Got the Zeus happily mounted up there. And it looks pretty happy up there. I like that mounting spot. Yeah, but right now let's sort out the wiring.
Cause tonight it's on the line. Show me how you get on down. Close my eyes, take me for a ride.
I do want to say that while this alternator works, it overheats so fast. And to be fair, I'm sure a lot of that has to do with our cramped, poorly ventilated engine bay. And I'm planning on installing the new Arco alternator once they can get one to me. Their new design should give a bump in rated output up to 275 amps and an increased output even at the lower RPMs, while staying cooler despite our sad engine bay.
It was kind of cool. I figured I wired in a switch up there at the console as float mode, so I could just automatically just go to float, so that if we need like full power, you know, we want to take all the load off the alternator, so we, you know, if we're going through a cut or something, we really need all the horsepower of the engine. So that's kind of cool. I considered putting another one in there because there isn't a generator mode on this alternator, so that it will put out a lot more amps at lower RPM, because you aren't needing the horsepower to drive. You just want to use the engine horsepower to make power. And so I may end up putting another switch in to be able to do that, because it would be really nice to have the engine as a spare generator essentially. And the idea being, with this regulator and with this alternator, eventually we can get rid of our generator, which is, I mean, that's like 1,000 pounds of weight and complexity and all sorts of things, and so that would be great. But we're going to keep testing this one and see how it goes. But for now, we got to clean up. It's been a few days since I filmed last on the alternator issue, regulator alternator scenario, and here's the deal. When I was installing the alternator, the positive post, this post right here, sits really close to a part of the engine that is grounded. And when I was putting on the belt, they got too close. They touched, sparked, and I feared that the alternator got fried, because once I got it all up and running, the engine was running, it wasn't making power, and it didn't show any RPM. And so I thought, I killed this alternator. So I went and had it tested. I took it to the shop and they did a test on it. It actually took them 2 tests, because the first test that they didn't test for RPMs. So I was like, no, that's really what I need to know. But then they tested it, it tested good. And the guy that did the testing said, hey, let me know how the install goes on that regulator on the Arco, because I'm actually doing that same install for the first time on a boat next week. So I'll have to give him a text and let him know how it goes once I finish it. But yeah, anyway, so the alternator is good. The regulator should be good. It wasn't connected at the time that the spark happened. So I think I have a pretty good idea of why it didn't work. I'm gonna test that and then I'll let you know. I've enlisted Jade's assistance. We're gonna fire up the engine and I'll stay inside to watch the alternator, make sure the belt is all happy and make sure our settings are good. And fingers crossed, we should charge our batteries.
Let's go.
2% enthusiasm. Let's go. Okay, wait like 10 seconds and then start it.
Okay.
So you need to open the hatch.
Okay.
started. That's good. Startup delay. No RPMs yet. Soft ramp. That's good. Hey, RPMs! Woohoo! We have RPMs! Yay! So let's see if we have RPMs outside. Do you have RPMs?
Like less than 10? Like 8?
But there's some. Yeah, 8. Cool.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's what it is inside too. Woo!
What?
Yeah, go ahead and put it in neutral and just rev it up a little bit. I want to go see how much batteries we're making. How much electricities.
How much electricity?
Yeah, how many electricities are we making? Woo! Focus. Battery amps 98. Oh, why did it do that? That was weird. So problem's not completely solved. RPMs showed up for a little while, which is better than before, and then went away. My thought was, it was kind of a funny thought, was that the reason why we had nothing before was because the batteries were fully charged. And so I've been draining the batteries a bunch this morning to give some room for charging to be needed, and it seemed like it was working, but then it cut out again. But it said the battery voltage was only at 13.1, so I'm not really sure why it did that. That seemed really strange. I found it. We have a blown fuse, and this is the fuse that powers the field current. Progress. The fuse I had in there was a 5 amp, and that obviously blew. I'm gonna put it in a 10. The Arco documentation says it can go up to 30, but the wire size that I have on that piece of wire can only do up to 20. So if I need to put in a bigger fuse, then I'll need to up that wire size. So we will try a 10 and see if I can do it. I don't have a 20. Okay, no RPMs yet. It's in the startup delay, so it has to wait until the 30 seconds goes by for the startup delay before it starts. It's RPM 750. 750, 800. We have RPMs here. So let's see if we actually start making power. Wow, we are swinging around so much. It's so windy. Hey, alternator amps. 215, 220, 225, 230. This is the most power I've ever made with this alternator. 230 amps. Whew. Let's go. So I just engaged generator mode.
This is my favorite part. An app that shows all of the techie stats, and better yet, all of the programming is done via Bluetooth on your phone or tablet or whatever, and it can integrate into the Victron system seamlessly. Hallelujah, it finally makes sense.
242 amps from the alternator. Whew. Let's see how it does with temperature. That's a little bit toasty. It's not too hot. It's able to get that hot. That's okay, but that's hot. So we're gonna need to get some fans in there to be able to keep it cool, because it's still doing. And they're still doing it, 164 amps, but that's hot. But man, 164 amps at 1,000 RPMs. Yeah, the engine sounds happy. It likes this. I have it at 1,100 RPMs in generator mode, so it's 100% duty. That's exactly why I wanted this, is because that means that now we basically have another generator. Thank you, Arco.
And by now, you may have guessed it, during this testing, putting the Zeus through its paces, I realized that the Zeus is perfect, but our engine is actually, in fact, not happy.
This right here is the kind of the main engine access to the backside of the engine, and that's where the turbo lives. So I am going to be getting into here, and this is where most of this vlog is going to be taking place. It's in this little tiny corner right here next to our freezer. So I may be moving this freezer as well because it's in the way. Alrighty, here is our turbocharger. This cute little guy. So the way a turbocharger works is exhaust comes out of the engine here, spins a turbine right here on this side. It's connected to it through a shaft through right here to this side, and air comes in through the filter here, gets spun up by the compressor on this side, compressed, shoved through the intake tube, and then into the engine. And that basically just is able to shove more air into the engine than it normally would take in on its own, which increases horsepower because more air means it can take more fuel, which makes a bigger bang. And yeah, so that's essentially how a turbocharger works. This right here is the mixing elbow, and this is where the exhaust gas from the turbocharger mixes with water right here, seawater, and combines it, and then gets shot out the side of the exhaust, or out of the side of the hole with the exhaust, and it goes through down there, a silencer and all sorts of stuff. We're going to be taking off this elbow right here and seeing if it is all plugged up, and while we're in here we'll be able to get to the turbine shaft and see if it's spinning, see if it's seized, and see if there's anything obvious going on there. That was not bad. Here is our mixing elbow, and that came out shockingly easy. That was, I mean, if you ever dealt with exhaust bolts on an engine, you understand, but that was probably the easiest 3 bolts I've ever taken off on an engine ever. They were good, but yeah, they came off beautifully. So here's our turbo, and it actually looks pretty good, except for, if you can see in there, that is all sorts of caked up. That is dirty. Oh, this turbo spins perfectly. Nice and smooth. Oh, wait. Turbo feels really good still. So that's good. So that was my concern, was that the turbine shaft was seized or something like that. It is really dirty in there. If you can see the camera, so you can flip the screen so I can see what you guys see. Don't focus on my face. This is where the exhaust goes in, and this is where the water goes in, this little pipe. And it's pretty dirty in there, but it's not plugged by any means. So that's good news and bad news, I guess you could say. So let's handle that, and then while we are cleaning up this elbow, we can start thinking about our next step of why our engine doesn't want to spool. Oh my goodness. Watch this.
I'm watching. Ugh. I don't think it's supposed to do that. Think I could repurpose that for drawing charcoals?
Yeah,
So it
this
looks
is just carbon. That cleaned up actually really easily. All that carbon came out of there. I cannot get the light to go in this thing. We grab my headlamp and stick it in the hole. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Decently clean. There's still a little bit in there, but I mean, it's an exhaust pipe. It doesn't need to be shiny. But all that came out, and that's significant. That'll at least improve things. I don't think that's going to solve.
You're getting it all over the camera.
That is as clean as I'm going to get this elbow. It's pretty good. And so I am going to jump into trying to clean the backside of this turbo. I don't know. I'm going to have to be really careful on that because I don't want to hit the blades at all. But I'm going to try cleaning that up. There's carbon millimeters from those turbine blades. It's caked thick, and I can't safely get in there and break it up, using a screwdriver or anything. So I think I might have to pull this turbo. Look at that. That is gross.
It stinks.
Okay, got the turbo off. Actually, it wasn't too bad. Again, one of the easiest, probably the easiest turbo I've ever pulled on an engine. So that was pretty nice. But yeah, there is carbon all the way up to the blades, touching the blades in some places. And that's not good. That's not how it's supposed to be. So I'm going to see if I can free up this carbon without hurting the blades. Because that in there needs to spin freely. And right now it doesn't really want to. I'm trying to pull off the exhaust turbine so that I could clean this up without risking the blades, but I did a big boo-boo. I broke that. And that is a big, that's like the worst port to break, I guess you could say, because the air comes in here, gets compressed, and then comes out here at high pressure. And so that's like the one port that sees high pressure air. That's a bummer. Hola.
Hola. El turbo, ¿no?
Sí.
El llama.
Sí. Okay, we are here because our friend Evo recommended the shop to have a look at this turbo because it, at the very least, needs a serious cleaning and probably some welding for what I broke. Okay, thank you, Evo. Bye.
Sí.
Okay, see. Here's our turbo back from the shop. They did a really good job cleaning it. They also were able to weld this back on to undo my foible, whatever that word is. And
I don't think either of those are
foible. I think foible's a word.
Fumble.
Fumble.
Foible.
But the main thing is they got it all cleaned out in here, and they did a kind of an inspection while I had it all apart and said everything seems good. There's very minimal shaft play, well within tolerance. Shaft play meaning this shaft right here that goes all the way through. I think it's called a cassette. Is like barely moving at all within tolerance. So that means that the bearings are not shot. That was one of my fears. But once I took it apart and felt it, I also agreed that it didn't feel like it was out of tolerance. Usually when a turbo goes, you can wobble it around quite a bit, and it's pretty obvious. But yeah, so now it's time to reinstall. I cleaned up in the engine bay, got it all cleaned up. There's still just kind of some leftover residue and coolant stuff from when I took everything apart. So got it all cleaned up, and now we will put it back together, and I'm hoping that they didn't mess up the clocking. You know, they didn't, they have everything in the right orientation, because you can loosen these bolts and these nuts and turn everything to have the right orientation that you need for your engine. So hopefully they didn't mess that up. And this is part of what took a little while. I needed some new gaskets to do this install, but finally got all the parts finally. Perfect. Quick pause on the turbo install because Jade, while making us French fries, decided to also French fry her arm.
A worthy sacrifice.
A little burn. So
It's
we
crazy
iced it.
they don't feel it.
Now we will give her some silver wound gel.
I wonder, I used to have another scar from a curling iron when I was 17 getting ready for prom.
And Dingo says he'll help with the French fries if we need help. I'm not very sterile.
Okay, I'll just do it. I'm not either, though. Why don't you just wash your hands?
Just a little bit of engine grease.
Just lubricate
Rub it
it.
in.
Yeah. Probably make me tougher. Thanks for taking care of me. You've just been getting so much attention lately that I felt like, we had to even it out.
Yeah, it's a good thing you didn't get burned like yesterday. You would have to do this yourself.
It's true. I might have done a better job, to be honest.
You know what? Last time I ever helped you with anything.
That's not true. Thank you.
You gonna install these today?
Sure.
Might well.
I have to put pants on.
Jade's taken care of. Put her to bed, take a little nap. She can heal. We're still both a little bit sick. I've been really sick. I actually didn't think I was going to be able to vlog for this video. You can hear I'm still a little bit raspy, froggy, as someone said recently. And
anyways, quick update. The turbo is fully secured. Oh, hang on, let me change the setting. The 4 bolts there holding it to the block, and now I just need to get all the other hoses and pipes hooked up. If you don't know, this is Dingo, and he tends to hang out with me when I do projects. He just likes to kind of hang out and be around whatever we're doing, and right now I'm here in the engine bay, and so he's just hanging out. He's a good boy. How old are you? I think he's 8. He's 8. And we just started giving him a lot more chicken and fish and some like joint supplements, and he has like gotten a new life, and he is running and jumping and just bouncing. He's super light on his feet again, and it's really fun because it was kind of getting sad as he's been getting older the past year, really just kind of slowing down, not wanting to bounce around as much, and now he's back. This is an interesting gasket. So this gasket right here is one of the ones that I had to wait to get. It's only like I don't even know, like a $2 gasket, but it's not actually a triangle. And I was just going to order one, just a generic, you know, gasket. And then as I looked closer, I realized that these holes are not even. And so I had to order this one. And it was fine. There's a place here in Spain that was able to get it pretty quick. And yeah, but that's why. Turbo's all the way full installed. I got all the plumbing plumbed and ducted and all the things. Looking good. I only dropped 1 bolt that took me an hour to find. And did a fuel filter swap, and I think it's good to go. It's ready to start now, except we have new control cables right here. And also the instruments are not installed out there, so we could start it, but we wouldn't be able to throttle up, which we wouldn't know if that solved our problem, and then we wouldn't be able to watch the gauges very easily. So not going to start it yet, but we're making progress. I am tired of waiting to finish up this instrument panel. I wanted to get the instrument panel completely done for the end of this video for this engine test, but I'm tired of waiting on, you know, finishing up epoxying things. So I'm going to start this engine and see what happens. It should be fine. It should start up just fine. And I replaced the control cables. These are the old ones. I replaced the control cables for the throttle. I don't know if it's adjusted perfectly yet, but it should allow it to at least, you know, be in gear or not gear, and then throttle up at least enough for this test. And so let's do this. Okay, here's our instruments. Oh, missing one. What are we missing? Tack. Key. Where is the key? Most boats like ours actually don't have a key for the engine, and I wish ours didn't, because it's corroded, and if it falls out, we're in trouble. I'd have to hotwire it, but all right, let's see what happens here. Leaks at the turbo. Everything looks good there so far. I replaced the fuel filter, so there was a tiny bit of a stumble on the start. I primed it, so it didn't really have much that it had to prime, but there was a little bit, and that's understandable. Hear the turbo now. That's a good sign. Well, I think we should call that at least a temporary success and a temporary win, because the engine now does seem, in fact, happier. The turbo is definitely making turbo sounds. I don't have a boost gauge, so I don't know how much pressure it's making. I actually don't know how much pressure it's supposed to make.
but it is making turbo sounds. The engine is not blowing smoke like it was, and the RPMs are finally getting up, you know, above 2,000, which is good. It was hitting the rev limiter, so that's a good sign. You know, I didn't want to spend above, you know, hitting the rev limiter very long there in neutral. That's just, no engine likes that, especially a diesel. And you know, and I actually think my shift cables and everything are actually in a pretty good spot. I put it into gear, went forward, I went reverse, and the reverse is a little bit off. I had to go a little bit past to get it to go into reverse, but I got them on the right direction, so that's a good sign. And yeah, doing pretty good. So anyways, I'm gonna stop rambling and I'll let you guys get back to your day. Thank you for hanging out with me. Thanks for being part of the Expedition Engineering team. And you know, if you liked it, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more. Hit the notification bell, leave a comment, all the things, and I'll see you next time. Thanks guys, bye.